Welcome to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. Hey, that's me. Hi, and welcome to Positive Talk. Our show features the best positive stories and people from around the globe as we endeavor to answer the universal question of why am I here and what is my purpose? Understanding that can change everything, and knowing your greatness is fundamental to living your best life. So join us right now as together we work to create the adventure of our lifetime. And boy, you want to talk about the adventure of somebody's lifetime. We've got a gal with us today that I'm a little bit nervous because she has got a bunch of clients who I want to have on the show as well. And so I have to be on my best behavior and do a good job because Cindy Mich is here with us today. And it's going to take, you don't even have to speak because it's going to take about the hour to go through your bio.
Oh, gosh.
Which is so remarkable. She's an award-winning journalist and, dare I say it, media personality. She happens to be a filmmaker, the founder of Independent Music Film Festival, Art is Alive, which is in its 7th year. Mm-hmm. She does, I don't know how you sit through 900 movies that you watch and that you judge. And you also have got Sin's Chat Corner, mm-hmm. which is now airing in 12 states and has a combined following of 2.5 million people. My goodness gracious. You are special. You are special. Welcome, Cindy. How are you?
Well, Kevin, I'm happy to be here. I got to say, it's a very snowy, very cozy evening. And so you're my last call of the day, literally. So I'm like, yeah, let's get Kevin done.
And if you want to pick up, like you're 3 hours ahead of me. So if you want to pick up like a glass of wine or something like that.
I should have done that before I got on the stream. But this is a professional show, Kevin. So we got to, can't really be cocktailing it yet.
I know. But, there are some of these shows, like I was talking with a gal yesterday who said, and because we were talking about podcasts and the different styles that people have and stuff. And she said, yeah, I was doing a podcast a couple of days ago and the guy was sitting on his bed eating a bowl of cereal. I don't know what that was about. But
that's a whole lot of crazy. I mean,
that is. Welcome to the show. How are you?
Well, I'm glad to be here, first off. Second of all, I'm a little nervous myself because, your numbers aren't so bad there. So I have to say, usually when I go on another media personality show, I'm always a little nervous. I, of course, want to make my best foot forward. And I don't always do shows that are live. So now I'm self-conscious, like everybody's watching right now, so I have to behave. So I'm working on it. We're getting warmed up here.
Well, the only thing that we have to be careful of is because we are FCC regulated and we're going to be on the Brushwood Media Network. And so do you remember George Carlin do you remember George Carlin?
Of course.
Yeah. With the 7 words you can't say on TV.
Yes.
We just did adhere to that and we will be just fine. So good. Tell me about yourself. You are an extraordinarily busy person, number one. And number two, you do so many things in media. Have you been doing this like forever, or did you have an epiphany one day and it didn't even hurt and it just kind of showed up for you?
So I have to say that when I was very young, I think somewhere around the age of 7 or 8, I was pretty convinced that I wanted to be an artist. But in my head, I thought I would be a drawing artist, like a doodler, like somebody who actually makes pictures. Well, it didn't take long to figure out that I sucked at it really bad. And I was like, okay, we're never going to make a living because these spiders look atrocious. You can't draw. So what are we going to do? So almost like any other person whose childhood wasn't exactly ideal, you have lots of time to think about lots of things. And so I decided that I would take my love of writing and words and put it down on paper. And what do you know? At the young age of, I think it was 14 or 15, I won my first award. And that felt pretty good. And I started to feel more confident about myself. And then I said, okay, let's make a go of it. And that worked for a little while where I was able to write consistently because I was young. And then I decided it'd be great to have kids and lots of them. And guess what happens when you have kids and you get married? You got no time for any of that artist stuff. So I went ahead and I got a day job for quite some time. So I worked a traditional job and all the meanwhile writing here and there and here and there. And it wasn't until I was about age 40 or so that I realized, working for someone isn't really working for me anymore. And that's when I really started to use a lot of my journalism skills and all the things that I learned through publishing books, etc., to develop myself more in radio and in print. And then, of course, film came along by happenstance. And that's kind of how I've gotten here right now. And I've been gainfully and happily self-employed for 15 years now.
Wow. How many kids did you end up having?
Two. I shouldn't say too many because my kids might be watching this. When I say too many, I mean like us parents wake up one morning and we're like, oh, I had one. Oh, and then I had another one. And then the next one comes along and you're like, oh, okay. And then I had another one. So I'm like, I have 4 different children in various age groups, 3 boys, 1 girl, all. Some of my friends would say to you that my lifeline and my love line is truly them. My life pretty much centers around them constantly, even though they're all grown now. It's very important to me that I have a very healthy relationship with them, that I help foster the things that they want. One's getting married right now, so we're knee deep in like looking into venues and getting going on that. One of mine is in college. The other one just graduated, so they're all at different stages, but make no mistake, they're my inspiration. They're the reason I want to do everything that I do every day.
Well, and having 4 of them things is tough.
Them things. Do you mean people?
Yeah.
Humans.
Well, it's remarkable because we had 2, and now they're middle-aged, smelly old men. And so, but when we had them, it was like, gosh, we didn't have to buy it. We had some hospital bills, but they just kind of showed up, and it's like,
right?
Wow, isn't that amazing?
Right? Yes. And they give me a lot of crap and they tease me all the time and they send me memes and they have weird vocabulary I don't understand. And they laugh at me when I try to relate to them. And I'm like, all right, you're still spending time with me. So I feel like that's a positive.
Now, hopefully your children don't do what mine did, which is they seem to have, went to sleep one night and rolled over on their side. Their brains fell out of their head and they forgot what their childhood was actually like. And they're thinking, oh, I had to walk, forever to get to school and back.
Right?
And you guys were mean and that and that. It's like, I hope that they're much kinder to you than that.
I think they're really wonderful to me, but it's a lot of sarcasm. It's like, I'm going to tell you I love you, and then I'm going to shadow box you, or I'm going to arm wrestle you. I'm going to try to take you to the ground. I'm going to kind of tease you constantly about everything. That's the love I get. And, oh yeah, can I have lunch? And could you make dinner? And could you pay for this? That's what I get. A lot of that.
Oh yeah. My issue is I know if one of my children calls me when they don't normally call me, it's because they have a need. It's like,
oh yeah,
Dad, I don't know what happened, but I don't have enough money to pay for lunch this week. Okay, how much do you need? And stuff. But that's part of the process of growing up and part of living and stuff.
Yeah.
But you got into, now you were a writer first and you wrote some books, and you have a children's book that you wrote that didn't get published for a long time. And now it is, I believe. And so you've been a journalist and an award-winning journalist, by the way. And so you must be very proud of what you've accomplished in your life, and you've got so much more to do.
I feel like I think that my accomplishments, it's nice when somebody says, we're going to give you an award. And I've been blessed to have that happen 3 different times. And it was a nice feeling, don't get me wrong. But I say this all the time, and I mean it sincerely. When someone sends me a text or an email, or I've had a few direct messages before that have literally addressed what I've written. I'll put something on social media, I'll write an article, I'll do something. And someone will say, it motivated me, it inspired me, it enriched me. 2 times I've heard I've saved a life with something I had to say. To me, that's far more of a significant reward to me than any piece of paper. Not to say that it's not great. However, the impact and the ability to affect someone's life like that, far more substantial.
Well, and the fact of the matter is, when you're out with as many people as you can touch, and you do it in a positive way, then that is what life is about from my perspective.
Oh, absolutely, without a doubt. It's very enriching, and I didn't always realize that, and I had no idea that I had the ability to touch that many people until I started doing this, especially with radio. And then as I went along. And, now everybody seems to kind of follow me for some reason. And I'm like, I'm just a regular person. I don't understand why these people follow me. I'm a pain. I complain. There are things that I post. I'm like, I don't even believe I said that. But for some reason, they seem to find me just very inspiring.
Well, but you are. There aren't very many people. I've interviewed in the course of my career well over 2,000 people, and I
Mhm.
can't tell you that there are very many people that have done as many things successfully as you've done in so many different fields. And be it writing, be it directing, be it a screenwriter, which is a whole different thing.
Mhm.
It's just amazing. Do you ever sit down? That should sound like a psychologist.
Yes.
Um, do you ever sit down and just realize just how special of a person you are?
So the running thing that goes on is I have a large following and I have a large social media following, and people are very meticulous about reminding me almost constantly, hey, you, the person that's always being nice to everyone else, duh, you're special, you're this. It's really hard to ignore all that positive reinforcement. I do have to work on being a little more self-confident, etc. I tend to say often, and I mean this, I'm truly a reflection of what I surround myself with. If I go on people's shows and they're very talented, I'm merely a reflection of them. The people I interview, extraordinary. I'm kind of just similar to them. They kind of rub off on me and I'm like, "Oh, look at me." You know what I mean? But it's been hard. It's been a very hard, long journey. Still a hard journey. It's not like I'm Hollywood celebrity, everybody loves me sort of thing, and I don't want to be that, but I have more work to do. So it's always a climb.
Indeed, and but you continue to reinvent yourself too.
Well, yeah, that'll happen. I think, I mean, first of all, grief will do that to you because you're like, okay, I was this person. Now I've had losses and this happens, or, life events happen. And then you're like, now I'm different, So you're kind of almost forced to have to reinvent yourself when you've been given no choice. Life circumstance dictates that. The industry dictates that. I think things have changed in media and publishing and such. So you need to re-evolve as far as that goes. Plus, let's face it, if I had my way, I'd sit in pajamas all day long. I wouldn't do any of this. I wouldn't go on carpets. This is work. Like I had pajamas on 2 hours ago. Now I'm all dressed up for Kevin's show. And then you're like, okay, I have crow's feet and I have this. And are they looking at me? You know what I'm saying? Sort of thing. So you have to adjust. And we live in a very, very visual medium right now. So it's kind of like if I want to be impactful, I have to do these things, even if they're sometimes uncomfortable.
Well, by the way, you're just simply gorgeous.
Okay, thank you, but no. Okay, I should just say thank you. It's very kind of you. I'm surprised I even look like that. It's what, 5 something? Hello. I've been at it all day. Not really, but thank you.
Well,
You're very sweet.
when you do the type of work that you do,
Mhm.
and it's very visual, and I know that. And see, I for one am working on. I've lost 30 pounds in the last 5 weeks or
Yeah.
5 months, and stuff, and because I'm recognizing that the bigger. I hate to even say this, but the bigger the show gets, we'll say the bigger the show gets,
Okay.
and the more listeners that it has, and
Yeah.
more viewers that it has, that I have a responsibility to not look like a overweight, middle-aged white guy. But maybe I am that. I don't know.
No, you're not, but I understand exactly what you're saying. And there's a lot of pressure. Like I like Katie Couric. I like some, very few of them, but news shows on television. So I look at people like Katie Couric and I'm like, okay, I want to look like that and present myself in such a way, etc. But I've come to learn in 55 years, which is why I don't like doing camera work. I'm a journalist. I don't really care how I look. Everyone else does. I care about the story and I care about being heard, and I want them to be heard. I really don't care about this, but society says we should care about this. So there's a yin and a yang with that. And so I know what you're talking about. And I just lost some weight myself. It's a constant battle. Exercise, weight. You can't eat too much sugar. You can't have that candy bar. It's like, I'll go back to radio. I can eat whatever I want and sit in silk pajamas. That's what I'm saying.
I get it. I do get it, and radio is a wonderful medium, and I've done it for a long time, and I
Yeah.
really love doing it, and you were talking about how you impact people that you don't even know that
Yeah.
you're impacting. when I was doing the radio show in Seattle, and it was the last day of the show because I had some financial difficulties running out of money. I didn't know how many people were impacted by the show, and this is in 2003, and I've told the story before, but it's a great story because when the last day I announced that the show was going off the air. Now, I knew that maybe we had somebody listening, but I had
Yeah.
no idea. And when I announced the show was going off the air, the phone lines filled up, and people started, saying things like, we're devastated because the show means so much to us. I'm looking at a pile of books I bought because of your show. I've met some of the most incredible people because of your show. One gal, because we had a nutritionist on a regular basis, and she said my health is so much better because I'm following what Dr. Nita said and stuff. But the one that got me the most was a gal from Bainbridge Island. Her name is Carol. And she said, I just want you to know you mean so much to us. And I said, well, thank you very much. And she said, you don't understand. I'm an Alzheimer's caregiver. And she and I sit here and listen to your show every day because you can still reach her. And that was like, oh my God, the whole studio was crying at that point, because you never know. And this goes for all of us. You never know what kind of an impact you can have on everybody that you meet. Doesn't matter if you're a superstar or a janitor. If you approach people with kindness and love in your heart, you can make a positive impact anywhere you go. I think I know you agree with that.
Absolutely, without a doubt. I do. And I think we live in a world and society right now. It's just things are ugly, and it's not just about having one political opinion versus the other. People are being unkind to each other. There's a lot of traumatic situations that are happening. And so my feeling is if I can get somebody to be entertained or enriched or even just educated or inspired in some way, I've done something. And to me, that's far bigger than a paycheck, because for a long time, I did this without making anything. Like literally, I'd prep and I'd interview people and I wouldn't ask for a dime. In fact, the whole magazine is earned media. I don't ask for anything. The idea is I truly want people to get seen and recognized and heard. It matters. It truly does. Because I think a lot of artists think they never get seen, never get acknowledged. And it matters. It matters that people get seen and they get learned about and they get educated.
Well, and I can only tell you that you and I are of the same motivation, the same mindset. By the way, we're talking with Cindy Mich, and if you go to her website, which is Cindy Mich award winning journalist what is that last word?
YOLAsite.com. It's a YOLA account. It's a YOLA website.
Oh, very nice. Very nice. We need to take a real quick break. And when we come back, we're going to talk more about that long website and what she's got coming up next, because a person like this has always got something. And we also want to talk about Sin's Chat Corner, which has got 2.5 million subscribers.
That's right.
That's more than I can fit in my house. We'll be right back. Are you looking for a powerful way to grow your brand while making a real difference? Well, Positive Talk is the perfect platform to align your message with inspiration, hope, and meaningful conversations. By sponsoring Positive Talk, your brand will reach an engaged audience that values positivity and connection. People who want to support companies that share their values. Take this opportunity to showcase your business in a space that uplifts, inspires, and creates lasting impact. Don't wait. Email me, Kevin at kmmedia.pro today to learn how you can partner with us and spread positivity while growing your brand. And welcome back, everybody, to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. And Cindy is with us, Cindy Mich, and as in Michigan, only shorter.
Yes.
And she is, like I said, an award-winning journalist. She's a media personality. She's an author. She's a screenwriter. She's a founder of a magazine, and she's also part of the Elegant Express. No, that's Elegant Expressions magazine, and also a film judge. And she's watched 900 films. All of them can't be good. That must be hard to watch. 900.
Remember, that's just not in one sitting, by the way. I have my own festival and I've judged for like 6 or 7 other festivals. So it does add up after a while. I have to say, probably they're all very unique and different, clearly. I think the hardest part is just it's hard because you have to give feedback for all of them. So you legitimately have to write out, a paragraph and a half every time you watch something. So that can be a bit much. Plus, I won't judge my friends or my family or people that I work with. So, there's a whole lot of, I want to give them some love and I can't sort of thing. But it's fascinating. I love watching the film industry evolve from the indie side of things.
And the film industry is such that we think in terms of people that aren't involved in it, think in terms of, well, they make a movie and then it gets shown, but there are tons and tons of screenplays and people that are working to break into it that can't get their film made. It's expensive. Nobody wants to pay for it. And there's a lot of that going on as well. So there's a lot of negativity, not negativity, but people that are trying to follow their passion and they have trouble getting that done. Do you have before we talk about Sin's Corner or Sin's Chat Corner,
Yes.
Do you have any advice for a budding film producer, a filmmaker, a screenwriter on how to negotiate? Because one of the things that you do is you work with people to help them get through all of that so that they can get their films made. Can you give us just real briefly? Because I want people to call you and work with you too.
Well, the people that I work with, like for instance, I run Art is Alive Film Festival. So during the course of doing the festival, I offer them everything that I believe a filmmaker needs nowadays in terms of getting seen, meaning reviews, interviews. There's supposedly an award-winning journalist that does the Q&A panels at the festival. And I also do straight PR for them. So I give them and develop with them all the various tools that they need to find future financiers, to find a distribution deal. I have distributors that come to the festival. So in essence, you can get distribution from my festival. But that's just one arm of it. I think one of the biggest things that filmmakers need to learn is that there are two kinds of filmmakers. You can be a hobbyist, and that there's nothing wrong with that. You can just do it as a hobby and enjoy it, and it's wonderful. On the other side of the fence, a lot of people who want to be working filmmakers, getting return on investment, being seen, and getting what they need, you have to learn or hire someone. And sadly, that's unfortunately how I get some of my gigs, is no one ever teaches a filmmaker that there's a whole side of business to this. There's a sales and marketing campaigns and all sorts of little tricks of the trade that you have to do to not only attract financiers, but also stay, not popular, but get noticed enough to the point where people follow you, will pay for your products, etc. So there's a bunch of campaigning for that. There's film festival strategies. So I do all those different things. So my best advice to people who get into the business are, you need to learn the business as you go along. And if you don't, make sure by the time you get your first film done that you are learning it. If you are out of the water, don't want to know, just want to write and do films, that's terrific. But then you got to hire somebody like myself or anyone else out there who's going to teach you the ropes as far as that goes. I also should say, because I'm a big believer in this, don't listen to the following. You can't, you won't, it will never happen, don't do it, get a day job. None of those things are relevant. And not only that, they're not helpful at all whatsoever. I think 90% of creatives are afraid to start. And guess what? You can right now. And I don't care if you're 80, you can still do it right now. Age is not a factor. Not making money isn't a factor. Anybody, and I mean anybody, who has friends, access to a location and a camera and can beg for a lot of favors can pretty much do a movie. Now, getting it sold and distributed is another matter. But I guess the whole point of what I'm trying to say is you need to be dedicated, hardworking, extremely passionate, very inspired, and never take no for an answer. It is that simple. Even though I am simplifying it, but the base root of it, that's exactly what it comes down to.
Well, you just said one of the most important aspects, I believe, in anything in life. If you're passionate about something and you have people in your life that say, which I did. It's like, Kevin, what are you doing? You're a district sales manager for a major food company. You've got a house, you've got a mortgage, you've got a wife, you've got all of these things. And now you want to go do a radio show? How much are they going to pay you? Oh, wait, you're paying them? Huh? And you're going to go do this radio? Have you lost your mind?
Sure.
And I had a lot of that. And fortunately for me, I'm either passionate enough or stupid enough that I ignored them all.
There you go.
Now they're all gone now, because they didn't resonate with what I was looking to do, and I'm still here.
Good for
Um,
you.
so that is an important aspect of anything that you do that you're passionate about. You're right. Don't take no for an answer, and never quit.
Absolutely.
Because if you quit, then somebody else wins and you don't. And
Absolutely.
so, and I know that you preach that to your people when they come to you and say, I don't know, they said no to me, they didn't like me.
Yes. So I think sometimes the job of a publicist is psychologist, and it's yelling at them sometimes, and sometimes it's like, listen, remember when I gave you a deadline? Like I wasn't kidding about that, or that sort of stuff. But I do think that in all seriousness, I think a lot of them come to me because they recognize that they have a talent that needs to be seen. They just aren't quite sure exactly how to expedite that or how to get themselves seen. And more importantly, they're genuinely good people. Like I am so very fortunate to have every single client that I do, and people knock on my door to ask me for help. I mean, I couldn't possibly like any of them more than I do. I mean, they're lovely, wonderful, creative people with a lot to offer.
And that makes it a lot of fun for you to work with them.
It
And
does.
makes it easier for you as well. Do you ever have somebody that comes to you and says, okay, Cindy, I know that you're doing all of these things, and I've got this thing that I want to do, and I know it's going to be successful, and you're going to make me $1 million. What do you tell that person?
That's a good question. So PR is all about expectation and reality. Reality isn't always something that we want to deal with. We want to live over here sometimes with the anything is possible. And I'm always big on anything is possible, but also I am very blunt by nature. So I try to nicely explain to everybody, everyone has ideas, even myself, even as the person doing it. If I go to a client and I'm like, listen, I really want you to do this. I believe in this and it's my background and I think it would work well. I'm not always right. I mean, most of the time things seem to work, but I'm always open to ideas. I do try to keep them very grounded, though, and realistic about what can happen and what I think is without reach. This is exactly why I don't take on too many clients, because if I do, it's not fair that I'm going to give too much attention to one, and I'm not going to be able to balance that with my endeavors. And I don't want to give up what I do professionally to just do PR, because I just don't think I could do it all the time. There is a lot of expectation in that area.
Oh, I can only imagine when people say they want to. I want to be famous. I deserve to be famous and stuff. and I'm good enough to be famous, but I really think that what a lot of famous people, and you know more than I do, but what a lot of famous people will say is, I wish I could do the work without all the crap and all the fame and the paparazzis and the not being able to go. Taylor Swift spends $12 million on security alone.
I know. It's crazy. Yeah, I'm glad I don't have that. Like I don't think I could live in that box. I was in New York not so long ago and I met a friend of mine, and he was just going on and oh, I've Googled you and I've seen all this stuff and you must be famous. And I'm like, people say that too sometimes, like I'm a celebrity, and I'm like, are you drinking? Like, have you really looked at me? I mean, I'm on red carpet, sure, but I'm like, huh? I mean, I guess I don't take myself that seriously where I'm like, oh my God, I'm famous. I'm just me, and I'm like, I don't know. I mean, do I look famous to you? No, I'm just me. I'm just sitting here doing my thing, living life.
One of my favorite people of all time, Sir Paul McCartney, and he said, when somebody said, "How do you respond to all the fame?" and he said, "Look, I'm just Paul. That's all I am. I love to make music, and I'm just Paul. So just leave me alone." kind of thing.
There you go. It's like, yeah, we're just regular people. And I'm by no means, I interview far many more celebrities in a year than most people think. Because to me, everyone's a celebrity that's on my show. So I'm pretty much like, I don't know why you're looking at me. You should be looking at them. But now I'm doing your show. So I guess people can look at me for a little bit.
Look at her. Look at her. That's right. You got to look at her because and I know you interview a lot of celebrities. Is there anybody in your, well, we need to take a quick break, and then we're still going to talk about Sin's Chat Corner
Okay.
here when we come back. Because I was going to ask you, are there any celebrities that you've interviewed that you really don't like? But we probably don't need to go there.
Scandalous, man.
I know. Well, the thing is, Cindy, is that a lot of people look at folks like you that have walked the red carpet, have been on the red carpet. Not very many of us get to do that. And so when I get the opportunity to talk to somebody who's done it in spades and has been doing all the things that you're doing, that it's like, okay, if you want to do something like that, you can, but you're going to have to take the steps to be able to do it and to get it into your head what it is that you're actually doing and stuff. And so talking to celebrities, I personally think it's overrated, but that's just me. I will, because I think talking to people like you and the gal I had in the last hour and people that are really working to make a difference in this world are the real celebrities that we should celebrate and talk about. And when we come back, I'm going to ask you your opinion of that. So we'll be right back after this message.
You're listening to Brushwood Media Network, the best in syndicated talk, news, and entertainment shows.
As you go about your daily life, look closer. As you gather with family and friends who love and support you, look closer. There are youth right in your community who don't have the home, warmth, and healing you have. So look closer. Every year across America, a staggering 4.2 million youth are homeless or trafficked. And for 50 years, Covenant House has worked relentlessly to keep them safe and protected. Tonight, 2,000 young people will sleep safely in a Covenant House bed. And tomorrow, they will wake up surrounded by love. They get clean clothes, hot meals, medical care, and a safe place to sleep. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. In sites across America to help them fulfill the great promise of their lives. So look closer at Covenant House. To help or get help, go to covenanthouse.org.
And welcome back to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. We have Cindy Mich with us. She is a publicist. It takes too long. She does everything. And by the way, I played that commercial again, I'm sorry to say, because we still have 4 million kids that are homeless and hungry in the United States of America. That is wrong. I'm going to play that commercial every day until we can fix it. And I know we can. This is the greatest country in the world. So there. So Cindy, it really is my pleasure to have you here because you've done so much. You've seen so much. Do you have a real special memory of all the people you've interviewed, of all the things that you've done? Can you give us just kind of a snippet of what it's like to be? What's it like to be Cindy, for heaven's sakes?
Oh my God. Well, okay. Let me just see. To be Cindy. Well, I think probably one of the coolest gigs I ever decided to do was radio because of the fact that I came to appreciate, and it took many years, and I still say to this day, I sound like a boy when I talk. I've really come full circle with learning about the power of one's voice and what happens and things like that. So I think, what's it like to be Cindy? Cindy loves radio. Cindy loves her magazine more than life itself because it's 80%, maybe 90% written by me. So so it's my ability to be able to use my words for good, which is wonderful. I think that if you hung around Cindy long enough, as disappointing as this sounds to people, no, I don't love you're going to be on a red carpet 3 days in a row. No, I don't love that because people don't get the mentality of 2 hours in hair and makeup and picking the right dress and everybody focuses on you and your look. And, for a real journalist, red carpets really are just 2 questions, per person. And I'm greedy. I don't want 2 questions. I want 20 questions in 30, 40 minutes to be able to talk to somebody. So Cindy's not a red carpet fan. Cindy's over having her picture taken constantly, but that's what people do when you go to an event, that sort of stuff. So I think Cindy, in her natural element, she just wants to sit and write and make people look good and do these things only once in a while because I'm told I don't always promote myself, and I should, that sort of thing. So I learned something about myself all the time. I am learning and evolving and realizing that my life without writing just is so empty. You know what I mean? So at the heart of me, there's this little writer that just wants to do everything. So that's why I'm in film, and that's why I'm having a magazine and radio and print, because then I'm just a control freak and I don't want to be told no. So I pretty much, if my name's on it, I can do whatever I want, right? Kind of.
That is a big freeing feeling. By the way, this is Rochelle.
Hello.
Who joined us.
Hi, Cindy.
Hello.
And she's a budding superstar, by the way, but that's a story for another time. But let's talk about Cin's Chat Corner. What was the motivation behind developing that show? And Rochelle, she's got 2.5 million. She's got more followers than we do. So
I know. I saw.
I'm sorry. Well, Cin's Chat Corner was my original name for my radio show. So years ago, I started Cin's Chat Corner because only special people get to call me Cin, which is my nickname. And then I thought, what sounds catchy? As a writer, I was like, what are people going to remember? Cin's Chat Corner. Then I reached out to a designer who put together a logo, which was very cute because it looked like me. And then I said, okay. And then when I thought about doing television, I was like, well, why change it if it ain't broken? So I took the same logo and the same name, and I thought to myself, you know what? Let's do the show. So the idea for public access came by the fact, and it's as simple as this. The ultimate goal here is to go to network television, because apparently the only real way to get the biggest impact possible is to go to network television. But again, as a working journalist, I know full well my clients are so special that they can't be covered in 4 minutes, and I won't do that to them. So I won't do a 4-minute bite on a national network. So the goal is to get a 30-minute talk show. Well, how do you do that? You start by cutting your teeth. I've been doing this a long time, but public access is the start. I can do up to a 50-minute show. I can air it in multiple states. I can talk to anyone that I want for the most part, because they air it. And what's really nice is it's an equal mix of arts and entertainment and investigative journalism. One week I could be doing an actor. The next week I'm doing somebody who has an incarcerated loved one. So it allows me to cover both areas. And I didn't do it because I wanted to get millions and millions of people. I've always been told that my approach is unique and original, and that my shows are good, and that I'm a great host and people want to watch me. So they wanted on camera, yay. So I gave it to them, and now here we are.
Well, I like radio myself because because the one thing is, it's like nobody knows what you look like. And so if they ever see a picture of you, go, oh, that's not what I was expecting, because they get in a image in their own mind of what you sound like and what you look like. Yes. And it's like, oh, I thought he was better looking than that. So anyway, but that's, but I love that you're doing that. And by the way, did anybody in your radio career tell you, Cindy, you've got to really niche down, and you're covering way too many topics, and you got to niche down to a specific thing? Did anybody ever tell you that?
No, actually, it's very rare. It's very odd in radio or in print or otherwise. It's very infrequently that someone says to me, you know what, I don't really care for the format, or could you do this or this? The only real thing that I ever get, and this is often on the PR side, people will be like, yeah, could we just do a quick 15 minutes? And I don't know how to nicely say, just go back and watch my interviews, because I just refuse. That's like, I have to have a hard line somewhere. That's my hard line. If you want a good interview, and I'm pretty confident I can give that, you need to watch my other shows. Me cutting anything is cutting them. And anything, in a film festival or otherwise, if you have a big project to promote, you need 30 minutes to cover that at the bare minimum. So I just won't compromise on that. So I do hear complaints sometimes about, oh, make it shorter or whatever. That's a hard no, because when you're running it, then you can change it. And I don't think it's unrealistic. I think content is important, and I get to control how much of it there is.
And the way I look at it is that Cindy took the time to come on my show, and it is 6:00 her time, and it's getting ready for dinner, and she's gone out of her way to do this. I owe it to her to make sure that all the information that she's would like to get out gets out, and I can't do it in 15 minutes. You're right.
Exactly. You see what I'm saying? So that's really the only thing. Otherwise, I've been pretty blessed. I've had a lot of positive thoughts. And then when I try to quit, people are like, no, you're not. So I hear there's talk. There's some friends in New York that are shopping around to try to find me a show. So I was like, they just want me to move there and have a show there. And I'm like, well, I would absolutely love that. But do I think I'm quite ready for big TV? Close, but not quite.
So I want to ask you, you're a professional in the business.
Yeah.
There are so many TV channels now that how do you get noticed? I mean, there's 120, 150 different TV channels, and
Yeah.
it divides the audience so completely that how do you get noticed?
I think the key to it is, at least from what people have said to me, is first off, I don't take no for an answer. And in fact, when I'm passionate about something, that's probably when I'm most just difficult. Because I'm like, when I am onto something, I am not changing my tune. I am not giving up. Do you know what I'm saying? So I'm very adamant about wanting what I want. Unique, original, out of the ordinary, whether networks want to admit it or not. People are tired of the same thing. That's why they don't watch Netflix all the time, or some of the major networks. It gets boring with the streaming stuff because you've seen it all. So nowadays it's a big challenge because journalists like me are an actual working, honest journalist, and I don't sugarcoat and I don't have an agenda. That's hard to find. So what I want to do is give real news, real stories that are impactful, and real things that have not been heard before and done in a way that's not been done before. That's what I think gets you noticed.
I couldn't agree more, and it is important. By the way, I got to ask you, this thought just crossed my mind. Has anybody ever told you, Cindy, you're not a very good employee?
Well, I've been fired a few times from day jobs, like bad, just because it's like, well, you were supposed to be here and didn't do this, or we wanted you to do this sort of thing. By and large, when I was regularly employed, I was fine. Like I worked, many years at certain places. It wasn't so much a matter of that. But I think all of us, when we realize what our purpose is, and of course, when your kids get to a certain age and it's realistic financially, you take a look at, okay, what does the end game look like? Like, where do I want my future and my career to be? And how much can I do to make that happen? So I think I was a pretty good employee for the most part. Obviously I work for my clients. I mean, there's no greater joy to me. I just talked to one of them today. It's her birthday today. And she said to me, she's like, you're one of the best things that ever happened to me. That to me means more than a paycheck. And that means that my clients are my friends as well as my boss, so to speak. You know what I'm saying? So you couldn't ask for a better gig as far as that goes. But no, I was a good employee when I worked for other people.
Well, what I'm talking about is that, like, if you were to go on a nationally, like an NBC talk show or stuff, you got a producer, you got a writers, you've got a director, and all these people are saying, Cindy, if you could just do it this way a little bit, and we're going to go do this, and we're not, and you disagree with them, then that's when I run into problems, which is why I never did corporate radio, because they want you to take the breaks here, and there's so many of them, and all that kind of, and so you lose control of your creative ability to create.
Yeah, I think you're probably right in that regard. However, I also know that sometimes being politically correct is a necessity. Like, I deal with people, including celebrities and agents sometimes, that are very maddening. And I literally want to say XYZ in an email, or I want to call and say this. That doesn't mean that I should. So you have to just learn to compromise sometimes, not on everything. So, I'll compromise on many things, but there's a few where I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. But by and large, I think I'd be able to work with that. But that's why I keep saying I'm not quite ready yet. I have to find the right network that's going to be willing to say, yeah, let's try her for a morning talk show, or let's try this or this. So, I remain hopeful. I know it's not the time now, but it will be at some point. And then I'll know I'll have done all I need to do once I get there.
Yeah, but you've got to reach 2.5 million people.
Listen, I don't need to wave it off like it's no big deal. But to be honest with you, I think our society looks at, and I know it's necessary because of the business we're in, the numbers. I don't look at that. I look at who writes to me. I look at who talks to me. I look at the feedback. I look at the people that I interview. And when they come back at me and they're like, okay, that is a good number. But it's also across 12 states. And I also realize I could have it bigger, or I could change things, etc. I think most of us writers are just creatures of habit, and we're always just one more edit, one more change. I could have done this. I should do this. We're never happy. So it's like, okay, well, I got 2.5 and now I got to be by 4 here, or whatever have you. And again, for me, it's not so much numbers as it is what you do with what you're given to make an impact and how it influences people for the good, hopefully.
I couldn't agree more. And we've got to take one more. It's a 30-second break. Everybody calm down.
Okay.
And we'll be right back. And then I'm going to put Rochelle on the spot and say, you get to ask the next question. We'll be right back.
Okay.
Last week, Brandon met a girl on a dating app. One day after work, he finally found the courage to ask her out. No answer. He started to panic. Was he being too pushy? Maybe it was too...
Hey, sorry I didn't respond. I was driving. I would love to go on a date. How does tonight sound?
Brandon tried to play it cool, but inside he knew. A girl so smart, so responsible. She must be a keeper.
And welcome back to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. Cindy Mich is here, and she is a publicist. Oh, gosh. She's an award-winning journalist. She's a publicist. She is a screenwriter. She is a director. She's a producer. She's a PR person. She does all that stuff, and which is just amazing to me. And Rochelle, you've been listening even before you got on here. You were listening. Do you have a question for Cindy?
Yes, I am actually super curious to know if there was an experience that you had with a client when you even throughout the whole time you've done this that has taught you something that has stuck with you and changed the way that your work proceeded.
Well, I think all of my clients have at one time or another have changed me, period. And publicity and PR in general, I've only done for the last how many years? I've been busy promoting myself for a long time. And I knew when I started, I would only do select clients because I didn't have enough time and bandwidth to be able to take on a ton. So I think the one thing I've learned the most, and it came more recently because I think we spoke about this. One of my clients happens to be a Holocaust survivor. All of them teach me things. Without a doubt, the one thing that I have learned from Ben is learning how to forgive easier, learning how to be grateful for things, learning how to spread a message of positivity, even when I'm not exactly the happiest. I've also learned not to take for granted the fact that I was spared 90% of what he lived. And of course, that's a very high-end scale. You know, a Holocaust survivor isn't somebody we get all of the time. But I think unilaterally, all of them teach me something not only about myself, but about themselves. And also in general, how I can help people on a bigger scale. When I start seeing things that I notice that help more and more with each of these clients, I'm like, yeah, you know what? This is a good science. And then I can apply myself and other people. Does that make sense?
Yeah, very much so. I love that.
Thank you.
You know, Cindy, and I'm so glad you're working with a Holocaust survivor because now, I mean, that was 60, 80 years ago.
Yeah.
That the Holocaust happened. And there are so many people that because, I don't know if you've noticed, but history ain't the thing it used to be. It used to be a big thing in school. Now it's kind of not. And so a lot of people, they need to be reminded of what humans can do to each other if we're not very careful to make sure that we take care of each other.
Yeah.
And it's a great lesson. So congratulations. So I'm glad you're working with him to get the message out. That's a big message.
It is. It is very much so.
And it's an important message because it is really possible that could happen again. And especially in the world that we live in today. Yeah. And we need to really make sure that doesn't ever happen again.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
It's so important. So what is next for Cindy?
So at the present time, if you were to ask Cindy, let's see what's happening and what's important in her life. Well, I am dabbling in I'm dabbling into the idea of going back to radio because I miss it. I haven't done it for a year and a half or so. So I may go back to maybe doing like a couple shows a month. So I might just resurrect the radio show because then I can again sit in silk pajamas and not be seen like this. So that's going on. On the magazine side of things, I just published. So if any of you guys are interested, Elegant Expressions magazine, Ben is on my front cover, my Holocaust survivor. And inside is a video testimony and various question and answers to Ben. So I'm very proud of that issue. That just came out. And then the next one will be happening within, I wish I could say March, but with my schedule with events, probably not until April for the next issue of the magazine. Sin's Chat Corner, in my absence, after my dad's passing, I had 5 or 6 shows edited. So right now I'm not doing any TV so I can we're sending out 6 episodes. So you'll be able to see 6 more of Cindy's show episodes. So it'll be a little bit before I film again as far as TV goes. The film festival just opened up for submissions. I am so excited because people were like, can't wait to submit. And this year, just so you know, Kevin, I opened up a new category, which is film-related podcasts, media, newspapers, blogs, etc. So anybody who has done shows where they have interviewed people like myself, directors, writers, screenwriters, actors, you can submit to the festival. So I'm excited about that. So that'll be going on, and I'll be taking submissions for like 3-4 months. And then the festival this year is going to be October. So that'll be going on. And what else is happening? Oh yeah, my medical misdiagnosis series is finally coming out. I mean, that only took like 2 years. So that's coming out this I'm writing. Ben's memoir is being turned into a film screenplay by yours truly. So I think one of the biggest things that's happening this year is that I get to turn his life into a film. That's the starting part, of course, of the screenplay. So I'm incredibly proud of that. And my kid's buying a house this year, so I'm excited about that.
And you got another one getting married?
I got one getting married, one buying. Well, she's the same one. She's going to get married in 2026, buying a house in 2025. You know, the oldest child is having a grandchild, second child for them. My 20-year-old is going to college forever, apparently, to get his PhD in astrophysics. And then my 18-year-old is got a bunch of different opportunities he's weighing right now. So my kids are doing really good. And of course, what is Cindy doing for events? Oh, oy vey. So I'm covering Slam Dance next week. So I'll be in LA. So I get a chance to cover that. And then I'm going to be a panelist at the New York Thespians Workshop in March. And then in mid-March, I am a panelist at the Indiana Comic Convention. And we're crossing our fingers that I get the pass to cover SXSW this year, South by Southwest. Is that enough?
No.
That's what I'm doing.
That's a lot.
That's frightening.
Well, it is, but it's all spaced out. And I go to New York for a month every week. Every month I go to New York anyways for work. So, I mean, it's not like I'm going that far out of the way. I also want to take a vacation, which I am with my family at the end of March, and try to find as much time as possible. There are some dear loved ones, and I'm blessed to have a lot of them, but people that are very close to me that I just cannot get enough of. So my hope is that I get more time with them. To just do nothing but laugh and smile and be silly and giggly, because I've had a rough time these last 3 or so years.
I understand completely. I understand. And by the way, I just had to ask you, your son being a 20-year-old, being in college to be a what?
He's going, so he was originally, if you asked him, what's your goal in life? He wants to be Oppenheimer. Like, it's constant. Oppenheimer's the GOAT. I'm like, not really, if you think about it and you saw the movie and the regret, but he's fascinated originally it was going to be aerospace engineering. And then about 3 months ago or 4 months ago, he came to me and he said, Mom, I've thought about it and I'm really jazzed about doing astrophysics. So unfortunately in Wisconsin, he goes to UW Milwaukee, but the classes are all primarily in Madison. So my baby's going to move out in a few months and he's going up to Madison to study astrophysics and get a PhD, which will take forever, but he'll be happy when he gets done. He'll be like a mini Oppenheimer, apparently.
So
I don't know.
When you have a conversation with him, do you actually understand anything that he says?
Well, here's the running joke. Hey, honey, you're home. You have like 8 hours of homework. Can I help? And he just laughs at me. I'm like, I'm not stupid. He's like, Mom, it's not English. I'm like, but I'm not stupid. So I think he thinks that anything he would ask me is like, it's super hard to try to get into what he does. So I'm just like, I'll just wait for him to come home one day and be like, yeah, let me tell you more about it.
That's
I
right.
mean, you know, I don't know what else I can do except be like, dude, I'm here. I can help with homework. That's it.
Yep.
That's all you. And
Yeah.
and by the way, Cindy, go ahead because I screwed it up the first time. Let's talk about your website. If somebody wants to go to your website, how do they find it?
Okay, so oftentimes when I say to people, because apparently, and I don't Google myself because I think it's weird when you look at yourself. I don't want to know if there's awful things, which I hope there's not. So I'm going to tell you right now. My name is Cindy. My last name is Mich. So if you type in Cindy Mich, award-winning journalist, you're going to see my IMDb, and you'll see my website, my Film Freeway. You will see where you can find the television show and the radio show. So basically, by using my name, apparently it's kind of a gateway into everything. And on my main website, the journalist one, that's where you'll see like past event coverage. You'll see like my former magazine I used to have and all the different editions. You'll learn about my professional bio, which I guess is a little long, and you'll see
We
ways
could
to
have spent the whole hour on it.
I mean, it's like a whole page, I guess, at this point. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so much. But it doesn't seem like that. I mean, I've lived it. So I'm like, does it really seem like that? And let's face it, I mean, film and radio and all of this has given me the gateway to such wonderful opportunities in meeting some of the best people and being able to be who I am and not have to apologize or worry about being untrue to myself. I think this is exactly where I'm supposed to be.
I would agree with that because it takes a great deal of passion to do what you do.
Yeah, it sure does.
Yep.
And patience and tolerance and biting my lip a lot.
Rochelle, we've got 3 minutes. Anything you'd like to add?
Okay.
No, I just want to say you are incredibly inspiring. Just keep doing it, keep working at it. I'm really excited to find out more about that film and tell Ben that we say hi and we're sending him love. I think that is so powerful for you to just be able to do that for him and for him to have the courage to speak up about it and all the other wonderful people you work with. So I can't wait to hear about more of what you're doing when we get to talk to you next, and it'll just be a whirlwind of events until then.
Oh my gosh, how sweet are you? I think that's the highest compliment. Being inspiring and having people actually want to know what I'm doing is just so flattering. I'm like, I'm just me, really. I literally am just me. That's just me right here.
And just like Paul McCartney is just Paul McCartney, just Paul. And he's done a lot. You've done a lot, and
Yeah.
we've only got a minute, my dear. So anything that you'd like to tell our audience before we go?
I think it's important to reiterate what I started with earlier, because I deal with so many different creatives all the time and people that are looking to make a name for themselves. So I guess the parting message that I always have is obvious. Like I mentioned before, you are seen. And if you don't think that you're seen, you are. You're seen by myself and the Kevins of the world and all the other people out there that are trying to get you seen. So the idea is, remember, even on your worst day, you can't quit. Even on your best day, you can't quit. If you think you're not seen, you are. Don't take no for an answer, even if it's your 100th rejection. And don't be afraid if you're too old, look too different, don't sound like everybody else. Irrelevant. Some of us are going to take you just as you are.
Well, it's interesting because do you remember Wilford Brimley?
No.
He was in Cocoon. He looks remarkably like me, and so that's probably why
Okay.
you don't recognize him.
Sure.
But I get told all the time, you look like Wilford Brimley, for older people who have some idea who that is. And stuff. But you're right. We're all seen. And by the way, you're seen every time you are at a restaurant and you talk to the wait staff. You are seen every time you're at the grocery store and you have a conversation with the cashier. Make those good moments.
Absolutely.
Make those moments you can be proud of.
Yes.
Not the other thing, because remember, you're being seen. I know you agree with that.
I do. Absolutely. 100%. And it took a long time to figure that out, but I finally did. It's like the can's going on the head more and more. Like, yeah, even I'm seen. So it takes a while. So don't forget it.
Yeah, and I have a fast rule of thumb. If I go to lunch with somebody who I'm considering working with and they're mean to the wait staff, check, please. That's the end of the conversation.
Absolutely.
So I want to thank Cindy Mich for being here. Go to Cindy Mich, award-winning journalist, and everything will come up, and then you can find her.
There you go.
And thank you so much for doing this.
Anytime, my dear.
Thanks,
Thank you
Cindy.
for having me.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. Our purpose is to provide everyone with a positive, entertaining, and educational experience. I would love your feedback and comments about the show, including possible topics and great guest suggestions. Please email me at kevin@kmmedia.pro. And remember, be kind to one another because each other's all we've got. That's Kevin@kmmedia.pro. That was